Welcome to Inspirational Journeys, everyone. Happy 2023 to all of you listeners and viewers out there. My name is Ann Harrison, and for our first interview of 2023, I have Rebecca Rebecca Wheeler.
Wenrich.
Yeah, Wenrich Wheeler. I say that 5 times fast. With me today to talk about her debut novel, Whispering Through Water, which, as you're hearing this, is launched on Wednesday, January the 4th. So, Rebecca, welcome to the show, first of all.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
You are so welcome. And so, why don't you introduce yourself to our listening and viewing audience?
Okay, so I'm Rebecca Wenrich Wheeler. Wenrich is my maiden name, so but I like to still use it. So I live in Durham, North Carolina. I'm originally from Virginia, from a very small town in Tidewater, Virginia, and but I live in Durham now. And I have been writing since I was a little kid, so it's something that I always knew was true about myself, that I was going to write a book. It just took me a while to get there. In the meantime, I have been a high school teacher, and then I went back to school and got my counseling degree. So currently I work in school-based mental health. So still in schools, just a little bit different way, but I continue to write as much as I can. It's one of my favorite things to do.
Mm-hmm.
And my cat is here as well, so you might hear or hear him in a moment. So
Probably see him too. And those of you who are actually watching this, you have a little video, a little cat show as we're going along. So if you want to watch the cat, come watch the video. So what inspired you to become a writer?
I think a lot of people would say their teacher, but that's true for me too. When I was in second grade, I had a teacher named Miss Hodge, and we all did creative writing. She made sure we did that in class. And I wrote a book called The Funny Cat when I was in second grade. So I was like about 7. and it was about I grew up with cats, and a cat that got stuck in a dresser drawer was how the story went. Anyway, but she submitted that to a young authors contest and actually won first place when I was in second grade. And and she was just one of these people who really, from a young age, inspired kids to be creative and to use that part of themselves. And so I think that stuck with me throughout. My first long book I can remember reading was Charlotte's Web, and I probably read that with her. So that's probably where it started. But I've always loved books. I also found a love for audiobooks when I had to commute a lot. So I did that too. So I just love words, and I like to be able to express myself that way.
So what was the inspiration behind Whispering Through Water?
Actually, it was started a long time ago. So over 10 years ago. I didn't mean to wear my NPR shirt today, but I have it on because it actually started with listening to an NPR interview by a woman named Ann Fessler, and she wrote a book called The Girls Who Went Away, and it's a nonfiction book about different women who had to surrender children. Most of them against their will, surrender children in maternity homes. And I read this book, I listened to an interview and read the book, and it just stuck with me, these women's stories. And I kind of had just a story rumbling in my head anyway about a girl who discovers something about a family member. So I just put all those pieces together. But I started playing with the idea in 2008, which was a long time ago. And then I finished, I think, the second draft in 2013, and I shelved it for a long time until about 6-ish years later, when I pulled it out again and went over it another time. So it's been sitting on my computer for a while.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got a novel that's morphed into middle grade instead of the adult novel that I started it out as. But so, and I've noticed it's got a mystery and a bit of romance. It's one of the quieter reads. Um, is that something that you naturally write, quiet fiction, or?
Yeah, I think probably it lends itself to that way because I wrote a blog piece about this, that most of life is actually waiting around, right?
Mm-hmm.
We we kind of think about our life with these big moments that happen sporadically, like we just had a holiday, right? And we these times that we're waiting in between are really important, and I think we dismiss a lot of that time. I mean, that's when we learn, that's when we grow, and life isn't just all about the fractured, excited moments that happen. So there's so much happens in that waiting period, and so much growing that occurs, and we learn about ourselves, and so I think, and that way, I mean, I think that kind of I naturally kind of go to that because those are interesting. Like how people wait is interesting. Like, what do you do in the meantime before all this explosive stuff happens? What do you do? And that, like I said, that's where the growth occurs. So I think in some things that are quiet can also be loud in other ways because people are growing and maturing. It might look quiet on the outside, but on the inside of the person, it's not so quiet, right?
It's like, yeah, that solitude, like Psalm 46:10, be still and know that I am God. It's in the quiet
Mm-hmm.
moments that God speaks to us the most. I'm
Mm-hmm.
learning a lot about that myself. So, do you have any advice that you would like to share with us today?
Um, well, I think that, I mean, it took me a while to I think get confidence in my voice. Like I think we have these um, Hollywood picture kind of ideas. If you want to be a writer, if you want to be a singer, that it all happens in your 20s, and all of a sudden, somebody just discovers you, and you have this big career. That's not the way it actually works most of the time. That you're being patient, that you're working on your craft, that it does take a long time. So I would tell anybody, if you feel like you haven't, I'm saying this in air quotes, that you haven't made it in your 20s or 30s to become a writer or a singer or an artist, that's okay, because most of us don't, right? That most of that happens a little bit later. So I love the quote, and it's in the book too. At the beginning of each section, there was a quote by George Eliot, and it's actually up on my wall up there that says, it's never too late to be who you might have been. So you always have the chance to change, and you always have the right to change anytime you want to. So if you um, want to get started on something new, now's a good time.
So, I'm gonna ask you because Jen kept talking to us about this, and um, what is that? What is one of the golden lines in your book that you want to share
Mm.
to get people excited about it?
Oh wow! So I need to actually pull it up, but there's a where Gwen is the main character of the book, and she is trying to find her own voice, and she is a coming of age story. So she's young, she just graduated from high school, and she doesn't always know how to articulate her voice in a way that she really feels like she's expressed herself. And it comes from the title of the book. And she said, sometimes it feels I'm just whispering through water. And that's where the title comes from, that if you've ever been in, like, dove into a pool, and my sister and I used to play these games where we try to mouth words and see if the other person can guess. You can be screaming underwater and nobody hears you, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
the water filters that in. So that's part of where the title comes from, and that she is learning to find her voice.
Ah, yeah.
Yeah.
This book, I'm gonna be honest, it reminded me, I don't know if you read it. I read this years ago, and I don't remember who the author was, but it was called 17th Summer.
I haven't. Yeah, I haven't
It,
heard that.
that and I might go back and read it again when I have time, when I'm not in the middle grade world, or doing some out studies, biblical type studies. in the supernatural world. But anyway, I might go back and reread that because that was a quiet read, but it was the summer right before she went to college.
I'll have to look that up then.
Yeah, so I would recommend that. That's kind of what Whispering Through Water reminded me of. So, what are you working on now?
Well, I've always got a few things in the works because I switch back and forth. I have my second picture book that's coming out spring 2023, and that's with Belle Isle Books. And I haven't gotten the exact date yet, but that's the second picture book in the series. The first one, When Daddy Shows Me the Sky, came out last year, and they are books that combine actual factual lessons about the natural world with yoga to help kids understand those two concepts. And so this one is about gardening, focusing on gardening. It's called When Mama Grows With Me. So that will be out in the spring. So I'm really excited about that. We just finalized illustrations and they look so cool. One little, I don't know if you follow my Instagram, last spring, we had this family of frogs that lived in our watering can, and I showed pictures of them throughout the spring and summer because they were there constantly. And the illustrator, I sent her a picture. I said, the frogs have to be in the book. And she did them in the book. So I will, once I'm allowed to share the pictures, I'll put the picture of my personal frogs that were lived on my deck and her illustrations. I was so excited about these two frogs.
Oh, that is so cool.
So that's happening. I'm about halfway through a middle grade and halfway through a YA that I kind of switch back and forth. So once I get all, marketing is a lot of work, let me tell you.
Yep, it is. But there are ways you can do it. I mean,
yeah. So once I get some of that, worked out, then I'll get back to the works in progress I'm working on. So I'm sadly over the past month, I have neglected them because I've been trying to do mad social media posts and everything else.
So. Do you have an email list?
You can do, if you go to my website, it's just RebeccaWWheeler.com. There is a contact sheet and you can just put, just submit your contact information and I can get you on my list. So,
okay.
And then I'm also on Instagram and Twitter. So,
well, that you just answered one of my next questions.
Yeah, there you go. I figured
you knew where I was going with that. I was going to ask
you going. Yeah.
Great minds think alike. Yeah. So, and you write poetry too, right?
I do. Yeah. That's more of like my own personal project. I was never someone who journaled, but I wrote poetry instead. So if you look in my computer, I date everything, and so that's kind of my journal instead of like a narrative thing. It's poetry.
Yeah, I don't date my journals because that just stresses me out.
Yeah. Yeah. So I use poetry instead. So I love. I mean, there's a lot of natural world. I mean, stuff, flowers and water imagery and the beach, and so I like using all of those kinds of things. That comes out a lot.
Okay.
Yeah.
So now when you do yoga, do you do yoga on the resistance ball or just
well, mainly so I teach in a gym studio, and so we do use blocks and straps and those kinds of items, so props sometimes. I don't use, like, my own personal use, I'll use resistance balls and things like that, but for teaching I usually don't, just because we usually don't have enough for everybody everybody in the room. So but we do use other kind of props like blocks and straps and that kind of thing. So
okay. I was just curious because I do on Zoom. I'm with the American Council of the Blind, and then Leslie Spoon, who does the community thing. She teaches yoga. She does easy chair yoga, but since I have a rolling chair now, I do that on the ball on Mondays, and then we'll do ball yoga, and man, you talk about bending like a pretzel. I know I'm getting off on a tangent, but sometimes you need those moments, and the shavasana at the end, you need that to kind of sometimes get close. You can use that time to get close to God.
Yeah,
in these moments.
I always feel gypped if I go to a yoga class and the shavasana is really short. I'm like, that's why I came. I came for the end. So
I know. I love the shavasana.
yeah, I always make sure I do not gyp my people. They all we get a good, good solid time.
Sometimes I'll do my own shavasana.
Yeah, you can do that too. There's no reason you cannot do that at home as well. Yeah, chair yoga is great. I've taught that several times. That's a good practice that anybody would be beneficial for anybody, especially if you have to sit at a computer for a long time.
Right. And if you wonder how this is related to writing, it will help you relax and clear your mind so that you're writing, God can speak to you, and sometimes even when you write fiction, your characters can speak to you through that shavasana time.
I agree. Yeah, because you can, especially if you're getting stuck, you'll get stuck on a sentence or stuck in a passage, like I cannot work this out the way I want to. Is the best thing to do is stop and take a break. It's not to keep on messing with it because it usually doesn't come out well. Right. So like, I find I solve problems in my head when I'm doing yoga. Like I'm like, oh, I didn't even, that's the answer. So it just happens and I'm not even attending to it. It just, that's the best. Well, I'm glad I found a fellow yogi. That's awesome.
Yeah. I don't teach it, but I love to do it.
That's awesome.
I thought, as Christians, I thought yoga, for some reason I thought yoga was a bad thing, but I find out it's not. It's not all of the deep meditation type yoga. It's the stretches, the exercise, and then of course shavasana. You use that time for yourself, and and it's a time you can connect with God. I mean, you connect with pray without ceasing, but it's that time where you just are calm and quiet and still.
Yeah, I like the line that says yoga is for every body, with a space between every and body. Like that everybody, it could be accessible to anyone, and that it's really your practice and you make it what you need it to be for yourself, right? So yep,
I like that. So do you have a Bible verse you want to share?
Well, there's so
many. I know.
I know. I see you caught me on the
oh, I didn't mean to catch you on the spot. I should have told you that beforehand. But
that's okay. And I always love that the one, walk humbly, do justly. It's from Micah. It's probably my favorite one. I have that in a plaque downstairs in my kitchen. That's the one I'm thinking in my head. So
oh, okay, that is so cool. Yeah. For me, the 23rd Psalm really spoke to me. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. Though I walk through he restoreth my soul and leadeth me in the right paths of righteousness. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me, thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. And I could go on through the whole thing, but I'd have to look up some of the verses. But that was one that really spoke. That really spoke to me this morning. So because I feel like God's trying to lead me somewhere. So, and I don't want to get off on a tangent, but if that's if God is leading you down a path and you're not sure, just, read the 23rd Psalm and ask God to show you what he's trying to show you. So do you have would you like to close us out in prayer?
Oh, sure. I can do that. All right. So, well, first of all, just thank you for having me on today. This has been fun. It's always nice to chat about lots of different things.
It is.
And even going off on tangents. That's
cool. Sometimes it helps to do that because we are creative people.
Yeah. And your brain just kind of goes off.
It does.
All right, very good. So, dear Lord, I thank you for this brand new year. So it's 2023. And I know a lot of people get very stressed about creating New Year's resolutions and just that feeling that need to change. But Lord, I just pray that people would realize and understand that they don't have to put so much pressure on themselves, and that they can find joy in simple things and just take time one day at a time. And then I pray if we all work to tap into our creative selves and those things that help us feel full as we both serve other people and serve you. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. So, folks, we challenge you today to go out there and read to get inspired, write something inspiring, and share your creation with the world. For when you've touched one life, you've touched thousands. Thanks for joining us on Inspirational Journeys. And remember, your story matters. Happy New Year once again. And I pray that you have much success and let go of your doubts and fears in 2023. Thanks. Thanks for joining us and have a blessed day.